I'm back again for this project. My task was to make a grandfather clock for the Nutcracker Ballet. And the purpose of the clock, the modification is that the face would glow and it would move forward and backward on stage. So I started with a non-functional grandfather clock that I bought, used, dismantled and removed all of the workings and left the back hollow. I did put a small watch clock movement to hold the hands in place. And so for the motor, I had an old used garage door DC motor. It's a 24 volt motor and I'm running it on a 12 volt battery, but it's made to be variable speed and it seems to run just fine on 12 volts for the purpose. So the gearbox came with the garage door motor. I removed all the garage door circuit board and housing, used the plate to mount it with, left the gear on it, and on the underside there is a solid shaft right behind here with a bushing at each end and another sprocket, and roll pinned two solid wheels down here underneath the unit. In the back, if you can see, there's two larger wheels that are have bearings in them to freewheel, so that the clock can be tipped back and rolled around like a dolly, and when it's standing upright, the front two are drive wheels. So in action, what you see is the clock drives forward and backward. The other part of the task was to make the face light up. So we have a backlit face, easier seen if it's slightly darker. And to make that possible, I just took two small LED strips, mounted them inside each side of the cabinet, tucked the wires back where you can't see them, down to the battery compartment. And the additional feature that I made was to make the pendulum swing, so I can actually turn the pendulum on and off as well. And the way that I did that, I actually had another used motor laying around. And I just made soldered a shaft on the edge perimeter of the motor shaft to make an eccentric crank. Attached it down here to a lever that pivots the pendulum, which pivots much more than I expected. I had to make this moment arm very small. It used to be about this long, and the pendulum would get rocking so far it would bang on the sides of the clock. So I shortened that way up and actually had to wrap it with electrical tape to dampen the movement, because even at this small amount of movement, it might be moving back an eighth of an inch back and forth, and it would still bang the clock side to side from time to time. The motor apparently is not exactly 60 revolutions per minute, so the pendulum, the motor will slightly get out of time, but when the two cycles would beat together, it would get swinging pretty good. So the tape is just there to dampen the movement until I get something more permanent. You see this spring here, that is to tension the fish line, and the purpose of the fish line is just to keep the weights from dangling too far. They're hanging through fish line to keep them suspended. I've removed the weight out of the brass tubes, so they're just hollow empty tubes hung by sinkers clamped on the fish line to hold them in place. So that's pretty much it. Have the control box here, a main power switch that turns everything on and off, have a switch for the pendulum, and a switch for the lights in the face, and of course they're red and green because, well, it's Christmas. And then this switch here is actually a aftermarket replacement door window switch. So double pull, double throw, reversing switch for the DC motor. So basically what we have is a clock that moves forward, a clock that moves backward, a face that lights up, and a pendulum that swings. And thanks for watching. If you have any comments, any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'd be happy to hear it. Thanks.